thank you so much. Today we're here with Laura Lindwall, who is a motivational speaker.
Yes.
And this is your full-time job, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Developing into full-time.
Okay.
Currently,
I love that.
Currently
Awesome.
still developing it, but yes.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got where you're at today, which I know is a big loaded question, but I like to hear the origin stories and how people got to where they're at.
Right. Well, it's how my background story is been in health and wellness and fitness.
Okay.
So my whole life has been from the time I was a young girl in sports. And
You were a gymnast, right?
as a gymnast.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing.
And then after gymnastics, I went to swimming, and then I went to dance, and then I went to running, and then half marathons, triathlons, and in the meantime, personal training and teaching, and it's just been my whole life.
Okay.
So, and it was through that I was been practicing yoga for and teaching yoga
I'm
for
a
about
yogi
20
as
years.
well.
You are?
I should say aspiring. Yes, I go to yoga. I don't know that I'm a yogi, but
You're a yogi.
okay, does that mean I'm a yogi? Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes.
I do love some hot power fusion, the super hot class.
You do?
I love it. Yes. The hotter the better.
Oh, I can't do it.
Really? A lot
No.
of people say that. I love it.
I've tried and tried. And finally, this is what I should share this with other people too. That nauseating. And I would go to the same studio and the owners would say, try potassium, try sodium, try no food, try food. And finally he just said, oh, by the way, I should have told you that it's not every body at a physiological level can do hot yoga.
Oh, that's interesting.
They just can't. So
I'm a sweater to begin with, which is probably too much information. I'm like sweaty to begin with, so I think I just like it. It's a good release.
it's good for you.
Yeah, I like it.
If you can do it, I said go with it.
There's
Go
like
for it.
1 out of 10 times where I feel like I'm probably going to die. But other than that, it's pretty good.
I love it. I love when, just the sharing of anything yoga.
Yeah.
So it was what brought me to what I'm doing now.
Oh, interesting. The yoga did.
The
so
yoga
not
did.
all the other swimming and running and
Nope, that's just been, the training has really led to a lot of insights as to success and moving forward.
Sure.
But the speaking came from an opportunity that occurred when I was teaching yoga at a high school, in front of some high school kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were moved by your message? Or?
Well, they asked me about my hand.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay. And I love that about kids that they're so, I mean, I'm assuming they asked it in a nice way, not in a,
hey.
oh, geez, so it wasn't a nice way. Okay. Maybe
me.
little kids are better at that. Yeah. What's up with your hand?
He did. He basically, one student, I think I had about 60
Oh, my
kids,
goodness.
60 students, I shouldn't say kids, in the class. And one said, what happened to your hand? I want to know. And I thought, oh, no. I don't.
Yeah.
So I said, no. I actually just ignored him. And
And
then
you had never been asked that before?
I had, but it was something about being back in the high school
Ooh, yeah.
in that setting, because it brought me right back to,
Totally.
those hard years. And it was
kids are mean. Yeah. When you're
Yeah.
younger, with any little thing. Yeah.
completely junior high and high school were those years that, and it's just, and we'll talk on that. We'll touch on that later. But in that situation right there, I was really caught off guard, and I thought, I don't want to answer. So then another chimed in, then another, and they finally said, we're not going to continue with any more yoga till you tell us what happened.
Goodness. What a crazy experience.
It was
Okay,
crazy. So I thought, all right, I'll just tell it quick. So I said, I was born with it, and that was it. It's not congenital? They don't know why. They don't know what happened, and I thought that was going to be it, but they wouldn't stop, Karen. They just wanted more and more. So,
well, because it's different, and
yeah. And there was a teacher in the class and a principal at the high school who were kind of watching the class that day. It was the first in, I think, a 6-week session of yoga, so they wanted to see what it was all about. So they continued to ask questions, and I got really vulnerable.
Yeah.
And my voice was starting to quiver because I was reliving so much.
Yeah.
And they were asking me to share stories. Well, were you teased? And what was that like for you? And then I started seeing that kids were starting to nod, like they were understanding what I was saying. There was a shared, situations or scenarios going through their mind. And at one point, I must have gotten a little emotional because then another girl got emotional, and then another male student got emotional. And when all was said and done, they came up afterwards and they were thanking me. That's okay.
That's never actually ever happened before. Okay.
For sharing my story. And then they started saying, I know what you're talking about. Of feeling less than or insecure. And a lot of them, it wasn't maybe something physical, but one student had said, for instance, that, he was hiding his sexuality.
Oh.
And another student was another girl started sharing these inside fears and insecurities. When all was said and done, the principal came up to me afterwards and he goes, "This is your calling." And I said, "Oh, hell no. I am not."
And this was a yoga class, just to be clear. This started as a yoga class.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
He said, "I think this is going to be what you're going to do. They want to hear the story."
Yeah.
And I was like, no way am I doing this again.
Yeah. Because up until then, gone through life, you've been very successful, hadn't really addressed it. I mean, is that true to say? Or?
It was something that it was really a moot point. I made it a bigger deal growing up and that's where No More Pockets will come in. But my story is not one of being teased or bullied because I really wasn't, no more than anybody else.
Right.
It was really, and my friends were always like, people would like forget about my hand.
Yeah.
They would, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, I always forget about your hand," because it's such a moot point.
Yeah.
To others.
And it hadn't held you back in any way, physically,
No.
clearly. I mean,
No,
yeah.
It hadn't. Only for what I allowed it to
Right.
hold me back in.
Right.
But so that's how it all began.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And that it led to such other openings up by other students about such personal things.
I was amazed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty insightful by the principal, though, to come up and say that this should be your calling. And
I thought,
and he or she would know because they're in that kind of every day. Yeah.
Right. And I look back on it now and think, isn't that funny? Because everything that I told him, I said, no, it's too raw and it's too vulnerable and it's too much, are those things now that I lean into with that. And I know that's a term you hear a lot in personal development, but it's those emotions and those feelings now that have led me to love speaking and sharing my story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So from there on, you're still teaching yoga and then you have this interesting experience.
Yes. And then it started and then nothing. And then all of a sudden, maybe a year later, people were starting to ask more and more. And it was funny because I thought, why are people asking all of a sudden, ever since that happened a year ago?
It was the universe was driving you to that. Yes.
It had always been a question, but this was becoming more of people really wanting to know more of a deeper story. And I thought, I think because it became less of my identity, that I was just more open and more free with it. And people were starting to see like, how does this like translate into what you're doing now? It was a deeper story than just, so what happened to your hand?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started to get a little bit more in tune with what they were really wanting to know. And it was always about, how do you overcome?
Yeah.
How do you overcome not just physical limitations, but these things the emotions that it brought forth in you, how do you move past it? How do you get through insecurity and feeling different and vulnerable? And that's where No More Pockets came from. And
which is such a great name, by the way.
You want to know how it happened?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk more about how No More Pockets has expanded now.
Yeah.
So this is uncomfortable for me because I'm deeply, deeply spiritual, not religious, but spiritual.
Sure.
And so I was getting to ask or getting to share my story more, and people started saying, there's got to be a message here somewhere. And I prayed. So I literally went to bed and thought, I don't know where I'm supposed to go with this, but if there's a platform that's supposed to come from this, let me receive it. And the next morning, I had a dream. And I woke up the next morning and what it said was no more pockets. Your story is no more pockets. Well, that's the story of my life, literally, of hiding my hand in my pockets.
Had you done that prior?
That was my life growing up. That's what everybody would say. My friends would be like, would you take your hand out of your pocket?
Oh, okay.
Literally, because I heard a person, I think it started 5th grade, some kids whispering about my hand. And I went in my pocket because I thought if they don't see it. Yeah. So, and then it was literally, my hand was always in my pocket because I thought, and this is part of my story, but if they saw me first and not my hand, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but it became more of an issue because I got so good. I got so comfortable with how I could hide it.
Sure.
And then eventually the truth always comes out.
Yeah.
So then the hand would come out and people be like, oh, I've known you for where did that come from? And then it was almost more uncomfortable because it was a bigger reaction.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
I don't know you.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So talk a little bit then more about No More Pockets and what you're doing today with that.
Well, so what I started to realize was I wasn't fooling anybody. And it really wasn't about the teasing. I wasn't, again, I knew I wasn't bullied or teased any more than anybody else. So it started to be just something that I would lay in bed at night and start to, what am I going to wear tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then when I was at school, I was starting to realize that there was a deeper message coming, and it was like I really felt at the time like a phony. Like, you're not, this isn't, hiding your hand in your pocket isn't changing anything because the hand comes out. So what am I going to do?
And the hand's still there.
And it's still there. Yeah. And I can't change it. I had gone to hand doctors, my mom and dad, when I begged them in junior high to take me to see a hand doctor. And he said, there's nothing we can do. You can wear a prosthesis to kind of hide it. And my parents had said at the time, there's no way. We're not going to let you wear a prosthesis. It's not going to happen. So that was ruled out. So I thought.
And it hadn't, so this is fascinating because it hadn't held you back physically in any way.
No.
You're clearly an athlete today, but it didn't hold you back in any way physically.
No, I was a gymnast. So, okay, so this is where I talk about defining moments that came in. So when I was tumbling, by the time I was 3, then I got
probably
into
didn't even know
gymnastics.
anything was different or
nothing.
Yeah.
No, just, and when I was in the gym, and then I got competing, I had to try out for the USGF team, got asked to try out. And I was no different. I mean, this is before going into those years of where my hands started to make me feel different. I was just one of the other gymnasts. I was cut no slack.
Yeah.
I tell people my coach went on to assistant coach 2 men's Olympic teams. So I was trained with professionals. I was practicing visualization at a young age but I'd fall off the bars and they're like, get back up.
Yeah.
When anytime you fell off an apparatus, you had 30 seconds to remount.
Yeah.
So, and I'd fake it. I'd be like, shaking out my arms, and my coach is like, you're not hurt. You're scared. Get back up on the bars.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, and we would have to tweak as long as I could keep the degree of difficulty the same on a move. I could tweak it slightly, but that was the only concessions that were given.
Okay.
So, and then I go to school, and then I'm starting to be kind of singled out. I'm hearing kids say, that's the girl with the hand, that's the girl with the hand. And I thought, that's so weird because.
Like, who are they talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, well, I don't want to be with that girl with the hand. I want to be like I am in the gym. I want to be just treated as an equal. So I started to realize then, I can't change this. It's nothing I'm changing this. It's uncomfortableness that it's bringing me, where it's keeping me up at night, and the worry. It's just not worth it. It's starting to eat away at my, I just felt phony to people. And I remember being in, I don't know how old you are, but when I was in school, you had social dance where you had to have partners and learn in PE class.
Okay.
You had to learn the foxtrot and the tango and all those.
No, we definitely did not have that.
Okay, well, for
we
some
had
reason.
dodgeball, which brings its own other
so true.
set of issues, yeah.
So we had a lineup, girls on one side, boys on the other. And no one would be, the boys would come and they'd start to see that they were going to have to be my partner and therefore hold my hand.
Oh.
And they'd be switching places in line.
And what do? You can't step out of line.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was mortified because my PE teacher, my male PE teacher had to be my partner.
Oh.
And he walked up and he goes, I'll be your partner. And I was just mortified. And I thought, oh, this is so embarrassing. But it was another moment. As hard as it was, I thought, this is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's the fear of not being loved and accepted. That's where all this comes down to, is that who's going to love me? Is this always going to be something where someone's not going to want to hold my hand?
Yeah.
So that's where it all was another defining moment. And I finally just, because my friends, who I'm still friends with today, I had all this reassurance. It's like, you are who you are. They're going to see the beauty in that. And eventually you have to trust it. And even if you don't trust it, you realize I can't keep walking around with my hand in my pockets forever.
Yeah.
So that's...
I want to go back to the feeling of that phoniness, because I feel like people feel that today with imposter syndrome and imposter phenomenon, just in their careers, or usually it's high achieving people feel that way. Like, oh, I got this because of luck and I feel like a phony and they're going to find me out. It's interesting that this kind of brought on those similar feelings, and it could really affect your performance and all sorts of things. So I want to talk a little bit more about that phoniness feeling. Did you feel like, oh, I'm going to be found out? And
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I knew I was going to be found out because it kept presenting itself.
Yeah.
It kept happening. That's when I realized the truth will always come out. It will always come out. So you might as well just take it out and find out who's going to accept you with it and who's not. And that's just life.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
It's just life. You're going to be accepted by some, and not necessarily because of your hand. This is what I was saying with you. I'm going to share this next phase of No More Pockets with like the spirituality thing. And because it's just, I've had people, when I discovered law of attraction and these things in my life that I've always felt drawn to, angels. I believe deeply in the power of prayer. But when I would share this with people, one of my good friends, and she's my good friend to this day, so she knows I share this. She's like, Laura, you sound like a
what are you talking about? Yeah.
People like, you're already blonde. You grew up in California. You're a yoga instructor. And now you're talking about law of attraction and manifestation. She's like,
yeah.
I think you're weird.
Did you happen to watch Gwyneth Paltrow's thing on Netflix, or special on Netflix?
No.
She has a person that talks about manifestation and speaking to people that are no longer with us. And it was fascinating. And so, yeah, I sort of into that stuff too. I'm learning more about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, be into it if you're into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
my mother would say that we're clairvoyant, are the women in our family. Not to sound crazy, but my mother would say,
crazy.
Yeah. Or she would also say that she would have like predictive dreams.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you ever ask her more about that?
I mean, a little bit, but not too much.
Is it not? Why?
I don't know. Because I guess I haven't really experienced it to that degree, so I just sort of dismissed it, I guess. But she will say that if you ask my mom.
That it runs in the family?
That it runs in the family, yeah.
That's cool stuff. See, I would be all
we were
over
brought
that.
together, Laura.
Yeah. So, hand back in the pocket. So when my friend said that to me, and then people have said, you're a Pollyanna. My sister will say, it must be nice to live in your world, Laura. Yeah. And then you feel weird or you feel silly. So hand back in the pockets and you start hiding this part
tuck
of
it away.
you.
Yeah.
So it's just started to become this feeling of I'm being a phony, just like I was when I was hiding my hand. It's living authentic and saying, some people are going to love this side of me. Some people are going to be, nah, and it's all okay.
Yeah.
It's all okay. I remember it was a corporation I was asked to speak at if they had heard or seen my message about vulnerability and speaking about, I'm scared to take my hand out of my pocket, but the steps that we take to do it. And they asked me to speak. And I thought, I said, how does this fit in like corporate America? And they said, vulnerability runs rampant
Totally
in the boardroom. You have people, grown adults,
Yeah.
who are coming in and who won't share their ideas or speak up because they're afraid of being ridiculed or looking less than, or so they.
I was going to say it could be a metaphor for anything.
Anything.
Really. Anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
You could be tucking anything away. And it could be religion even. I mean, it could be a lot of things. So,
exactly. We're a bundle of things that make us who we are.
Yeah.
Physical, our thoughts, our beliefs, our self-talk.
Yeah.
And it's all an ongoing journey and process to me. No More Pockets has really become just a metaphor for the ongoing process of growth and living your truth and daring to be accepted for who you are and not hide these things about us.
Yeah. So I was definitely raised, going back to the vulnerability, like get up, rub some dirt on it. You want to be as tough as possible. And so it is hard for me to be vulnerable. I see it, and this is my own hang up, as like a weakness almost. And so it is hard for me to expose any vulnerability. I'm getting better at it. I read Brene Brown. I listen to Brene Brown.
I love Brene Brown.
And when I do open up and I am more authentic and more vulnerable, I do get like a better reception from people for sure, rather than be like this ice queen who's got it all together. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
But so this is what I ask people. How do you feel when you move through being raw or being seen or being vulnerable? How do you feel afterwards?
I don't know how I feel afterward. I don't do it that often.
You don't?
No, I don't. I try to, I don't know if it's like my generation or what, but like try to have it, always have it buttoned up, always have it together.
Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 43.
You're
I had to think about it.
I thought you were going to say like, really, I thought like mid-30s.
Oh gosh, thank you. No.
Okay. Because I only asked that because of what you had just shared. I found that this is what I share with kids in college age, actually women across the board. Just do it a few times and see if it doesn't make, it's like going to bed at night with your head on the pillow and thinking, oh, this feels so good. I don't even can I swear? I was going to say,
absolutely, yeah.
I don't even give a shit anymore about, I like this feeling of putting my head on my pillow and knowing today I didn't hide behind any falsehood. And to me, I feel very brave.
Yeah.
I find bravery and vulnerability.
For sure on the authenticity, like being more unapologetically me, absolutely.
Yeah.
The vulnerability piece I'm working on for sure.
Yeah.
But I have found when I do ask for help and expose any vulnerability, people are usually typically willing to help, and like more people come together as a community around you. And so definitely I see good things from it. It's just my own hang up. Like I don't even like to say I have a cold because I feel like it's a weakness. Like I don't know.
So much to talk about.
Oh God. Did you know this was therapy, not a podcast? Yeah, I don't know. I'm working on it.
There is a connection, I will say, that I think you probably just haven't maybe expressed vulnerability enough to see the true connection that comes. For instance, when I see Oprah Winfrey and all the greats, Tony Robbins, where people would usually sit in their presence and think, I have no connection to this person. They're so rich, or they're so successful, or they're so big that they're never going to understand who I am as a human and my struggles. But they all have a story. And when Tony Robbins, they all open up. They're all open with their struggles, Steve Harvey, all the greats.
Yeah.
And that's where I believe the connection, Brene Brown, to these people we look up to, it's not in their success, but it's in knowing they too have traveled this road of being afraid and vulnerable and scared and wondering, am I going to be accepted? So I think our deepest connection comes not from our successes, but sharing with each other our struggles, because there's something that happens when you know they get me. They understand what I'm going through and my fears and my weaknesses, because I don't know. I just think success makes us feel more separated in a way, like where there's a connection that happens when we just allow vulnerability to come in and we're able and willing to share our stories.
Yeah. And not to get too philosophical, but I think for me, anything I went through, I feel like having success at the end of it is what makes it okay then that I went through that. And so I'd rather not talk about what I went through and just talk about the successes, but totally get that it's more meaningful and helpful to others to share the challenges along the way. I'm just not good at it. But I am writing a book right now that's coming out in a couple months, and I'm talking about things I have like tucked away. I've put in my pocket. Yeah, and so I'm bringing
no
up
more
things,
pockets.
Yeah, it's like things I write that I'm bringing up from so long ago that I sort of just forgot about or wanted to tuck away, and yeah. So anyway, this is interesting. This is good. But the authenticity, I definitely, absolutely. There was a time where I felt like I had to dress a certain way and talk a certain way in business, and that did me no favors. And so
Right.
when I got away from that, I threw away the pantsuits. Did what I wanted to do. Things were much better. So that definitely. And
How
that
were
took
they
time.
better?
Well, I was happier.
You were happy.
Yeah, I went able to go home and put my head on the pillow and say, you know what? I was totally true to myself, and love me or hate me, it's me.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
Oh, so freeing.
So
to
freeing. Yeah.
Love me or hate me. This is who I am. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you're not authentic is people don't like you anyway. And so you think you're trying to please people, and then you're not. And so you're better off just being yourself. And if people don't like you, they don't like you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And learning to be okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That I'm okay with. It's the vulnerability I'm working on. And it could be, obviously, I was a cop for 10 years, a Chicago cop. So I think that.
You were?
I was, yes. So I think that plays into it. I grew up with three older brothers. And so, like, you can't really expose any vulnerability with three older brothers. But anyway, enough about me. I want to hear about you. So let's talk a little bit about some of your other talks that you have, because I love some of the titles that you have. One of them was the 5-minute pity party. Do I have that right?
Yes. 5-minute pity party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, that was so funny. That came from my dad. And it's funny because he doesn't remember this. But I came home from school one day. So my dad was an outstanding athlete in his own right, and a military background, not formal military, but prep schools. And so he was really worried about me when we were growing up. And he would say, he didn't cut me any slack. He was maybe a little bit harder on me as far as, because he knew he knew I needed to toughen up a little bit. I was really sensitive and
Okay.
to
Did you
others.
have
So
siblings?
I do. I
Okay.
have a twin sister,
Oh, nice.
younger sister, and 2 older brothers.
Okay.
So 5 kids in 7 years. My mom.
Yeah. God bless her.
Exactly. So I would come home from school after maybe a rough day, and he would say, "Okay, listen, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go in your room and cry it out, get it out."
Yeah.
And he would set a timer, and he'd come in and say, 5 minutes is up. Like, it's time to get back, leave your room, get back outside, and go on and do whatever you were going to do. And what he taught me was, and this is what I want other kids to know, we have to look at what's causing us pain,
Yeah.
but we can't sit in it and wallow in it.
Yeah.
It was a profound lesson for me just to be able to sit there and think about whatever that person had said and come to terms with it, and then have my dad say, "Okay, enough is enough. Now get back out and go about and do your thing,"
Yeah.
whatever it was. So when we're telling people nowadays, like, to not look at the pain, or kids to not look at failure, which is a huge thing to me, because
Yeah.
first of all, I hate the word failure, and that's such a big thing going on right now. But I truly believe there's no such thing as failure. It's just opportunities for us to
Winning or learning. Yeah.
winning or learning,
Yeah.
right? And it taught me a lot about how to move through disappointments and or criticism, how to move through it and not let it become part of our identity. Because my dad
Yeah.
did. So it was pivotal. I didn't realize it at that time,
Yeah.
but it really has kind of stayed with me throughout my life now. And that was probably in the ages of when I was 10 or 12, and I'm
Okay.
56 now. So
And were you mad at him at the time when he did it, or did you kind of
no, I wasn't mad at him. I was kind of, well, I don't understand. I want to sit in my room and I want to cry
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit more, or um, I just did it. I just said,
Yeah.
okay, time is up. And there was that bell, like the dinger, when I heard the
Yeah.
timer go off, it was like something like done,
Yeah.
just boom.
I
But
do believe forward momentum helps when you're feeling down or
yes,
depressed. And
yes,
so I kind of like that concept of the 5 minutes, maybe not the timer, but
right.
but you allow yourself to be sad for a little bit, let it sting for a little bit, and then you got to move forward.
And you have
Yeah,
to
you
move
have.
forward. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it really was so funny because I was writing a book in the process of starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And that was one of the things that came up. And I thought, I didn't even realize at the time that this was part of something that I've carried it with
Yeah.
me. But it's helped me through all these years to kind of feel the pain, but to not let it get the best of you.
Yeah.
And to keep moving through it.
And I have found with time, everything is surmountable.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a talk on that, on the 5-minute pity party? Okay.
Yeah. And then allowing us to, giving ourselves the space and a lot of people just sweep it under the rug. Oh, don't focus. Just forget about it. Just forget about
Yeah.
what that person said to you.
I don't think that's healthy.
It's not
Yeah.
healthy because I
Yeah.
think if you're not allowed to look at it, you're gonna put it down deep, and
Yeah. It's gonna bubble up later on.
it's gonna
Yeah.
bubble up later on. So you might as well look at it, and at that point now I can look at it and think it wasn't me. It was them. It was them. Whatever their fears were, or whatever they were dealing with that caused them to do this to me, to say these things. But at that age, you don't really understand that
No,
yet. You
yeah.
just look at it and be like, well, they were mean, and I can't, there's nothing I can't take it back. They can't take it back.
Yeah.
It's part of what I'm going to probably encounter. I remember thinking that's probably, my dad would say, this is probably how the world is going to see you different, Laura,
Yeah.
because of your hand. But the world sees everybody different. In some respects, we're all different. So get over it, cry if you need to cry, which I think is so cathartic. I wish we would tell our kids to feel, I hope to young parents out
To
there
cry?
to cry. I think it's very, when I look at it, like it's, those
This is another
tears
thing I
are
don't do.
cleansing. You don't cry.
No, I always joke I don't have tear ducts. No.
Shut
I don't know.
up.
This is this is not at all what this was supposed to be about, by the way. But I think my grandmother was a very strong woman. My mother was kind of the same way, and they are somewhat robotic in that way. I think I've seen my mother cry a handful of times, if that. And one was recently over her cat that she had for like 20 years. Yeah, yeah. So I just don't. Yeah.
Is that that's got to be tied to your fear of vulnerability.
The vulnerability? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And I would never at work or anything like that.
Well, I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a time and place.
Yeah,
Right. I don't, is that even true? No. There's times if I'm going to cry, I'm going to go into I'm not going to sit in I'll go into the ladies' room and,
Yeah.
let it come out or whatever. But I understand what you're saying. But
yeah,
again, it's just like vulnerability. I see strength in allowing your emotions. To me, it's more courageous to say, this is hurting me and the tears are going to come and I'm going to let them come.
yeah.
Because I know as soon as,
Oh no, that makes way more sense.
out.
than,
Yeah.
bottling it out.
and
then,
again,
yeah.
it's going to come out sideways. It's
Yeah.
going to come out. And that's where I find too in my years of, in fitness and in helping people lose weight. I've worked with Weight Watchers,
Yeah.
and I had a brief period when I was overweight. And so the lack of self-esteem and what happens through all of that. And I see food is another way of what people are doing because they just, being vulnerable is not an option. So
Yeah.
they're going to eat, for all the different things that food will do to us and the brain and the chemical reactions. I don't want this to get scientific, but it will come out sideways.
Yeah,
It will come out in being overweight and unhealthy.
yeah. No, I agree with you. I'm
Right?
not saying
Yeah.
that it's good. It's just sort of in my nature. Yeah, it's that vulnerability thing. Yeah, crying would be seen as a being
Weak and
vulnerable. Yeah,
vulnerable.
weak. Yeah, to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm right at all by any means. It's just the way I am. So
yeah, I don't know what to tell. And I'm not here to change your mind.
No,
I'm not
of
here,
course not. No,
right?
no.
It's it's fascinating to me when we just like these podcasts, when people start to really share what is vulnerable and signs of weakness to them. There's so many commonalities, and I think
and it's exhausting being that way, to be honest. I would rather not be that. It's just my pig-headed stubbornness of
that's exactly it. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
And it takes its toll.
Yeah.
In so many ways, with stress.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And so I can't. That's where I leave it on the
I need
table
to
with
come
people.
to one of your talks, clearly. So what has the reaction been? So obviously it was good at the high school, but now you've gone into corporations, slightly different audience. What has the reaction been?
It's like you. It's just, and this is where I was just met with a business coach the other day, and in clarity, and really, what are you wanting to serve with this message? And I don't, because I'm a leader. I'm certified as a health coach and leadership with John Maxwell.
Okay.
Which
I wanted to ask you about that, by the way.
But
that comes up in my Instagram feed.
It does?
Or maybe LinkedIn feed, yeah.
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 I really struggle with coach, the word coach. And
there's so many coaches. Yeah.
There's so many coaches.
Yeah.
And here's kind of my take on it. I don't really consider myself a coach. I heard something, or I read something about a speaker who said, at the end of the day, all I really want to do is maybe have expressed one word or one insight that someone will take with them that will inspire for them something intrinsic that lets them or leads them to change. So when I was a personal trainer, and I did it very briefly because I was younger and my ego was way involved. I will say that, too involved. So I saw, it was the time when Weight Watchers was in, Fen, Scarsdale, and Atkins.
Okay.
So this was going back about 20 some years.
Yeah.
And I was not going to, because there was coaches who were telling, go to the doctor, get on Fen, it's a great drug, all these things. And I just knew.
Like Dexatrim and.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so.
Which is basically a pill that increases your heart rate.
Yeah, it was fenfluramine that came out. And it was a drug, it was a prescription drug at the time that people were having, very dangerous.
Yeah.
So.
I did take hydroxycut and ripped fuel at the time, though. I will say, my husband and I were just talking about this when it had all that stuff in it, and I'd be like, "Why do I have heart palpitations after I leave the gym?"
And sweats. And I'm like hot, and I don't feel good.
Yeah.
So this is I'll tell you this real quick as a lead-in. When I was a gymnast during compulsory seasons, we were weighted. Okay, when the compulsory season would start, so around 11, 12 years old, 12, 13. And I remember going to the scale in front of all the other gymnasts. They'd put a scale in the middle of the floor, and we'd have to just step up and weigh in. And I was 109 pounds at the time. And I remember my coach saying, "You're got to lose a few pounds. We're coming into compulsory season."
Did you have to weigh a certain weight, or they just wanted you at a certain weight?
It wasn't like wrestling where there was a certain weight. I think it was how we were appearing at the time. And my body was wanting to go through puberty.
Yeah. And you're packed with muscle. So yeah, which weighs more.
But I was always built like Mary. I don't know if you remember Mary Lou Retton, but I was kind of like a little bull. But I was starting to anyway. So, and I remember feeling shamed over that because they said it. We were there was no privacy screens. They were like 109. Laura, you need to drop a few pounds. Compulsory season, and it was done. I went back in line, but I was feeling shamed from it. So then gymnastics ended. I could no longer compete at the level in the USGF that I needed to. And at that time, you had to compete on all four apparatuses. You couldn't just compete on one to pull up team points. Okay. So it got to that point where I could no longer do what I needed to do on bars. So I had to quit.
Okay.
So I think it was a year, Karen. So I was training in the gym probably 2 or 3 times a week from after school from 5 till 9. And on Saturdays, we were in the gym all day long during compulsory season. So I was working out a lot. And I remember stepping on the scale after that ended, and it was within a short time, I weighed 145. So, and I remember walking down in high school again, someone saying, boy, my main name is McColgan. Laura McColgan's a fat ass now. Yes. And that, I took a lot of pride in being fit when I was a gymnast because
Sure.
um,
By the way,
I did.
145 is not.
well, I'm 5'2". And to go from 109
Yeah,
to 145. So no, it wasn't
You're right.
right. But I was, what do you guys see? What I said, chubby
Okay.
at the time. So I was probably 14, 15. There was a little gym, little women's only gym that opened in our neighborhood. I walked down to this gym, Body Beautiful. And I started to cry. I was telling the manager, and I said, I'm overweight. I gained all this weight. I was a gymnast.
Yeah.
And she said, we'll sign you up, but you're not old enough to sign a contract. You're not even 16 or 18. So they called my mom, said, your daughter's here at the gym. You got to come sign her up.
Yeah.
So I signed up and was back in love, fell in love again with fitness. And I thought, this is partly, I miss this. I miss the working out. It was just a part
was
of.
it lifting weights and running, or what was it?
At the gym?
Yeah.
At the time? Yeah, it was weight training. And this was before Jen Miller had come in, and there was no such thing as step aerobics yet. So it was glorified like the old-fashioned step
I did
aerobics.
Yeah, I loved it. Actually.
I loved it.
Loved it. It was a great workout.
And the weight started coming off, and I just did what I had to do. And that was probably my regimen of being in the gym as a gymnast. It was that regimen of knowing, okay, you just started small and you did the steps and the weight came off. And then before you know it, I was 17 and I was teaching aerobics.
Okay, awesome.
And that's how that whole thing started. So I get my personal training certification, and these women would come to me and in tears, they were overweight and they wanted to lose weight. And right away I got it, because I'd been there too. And then I'd see them in the grocery store and they'd make a beeline, like they didn't want me to see what they had in their shopping carts.
Yeah, you don't want to see my shopping cart either.
So this woman had said to me, I don't think you're the trainer for me because I'm not losing weight and I'm doing everything right. And that was one of the women I later saw in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And I could tell she was avoiding me, but her husband was there that day. And he came in, came over and said, oh, and I said, I just saw your wife. She's avoiding me. And he said, listen, I heard she called you. And she said, she wants to kind of like find a different trainer. And he said, I want to tell you, it's not you. He said, I don't know if you know Entenmann's cakes, but they're these little frozen cakes. He's like, she eats a half an Entenmann's cake every night, Laura.
Oh, God.
She's not ready.
Yeah.
She's just not ready. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Fuck, I'm done with this. I'm done with people coming to me and saying, and crying and saying, I hate who I am. And that was at that time, that was my point. Like, and I'd hear this, and this was just a catch-all that I knew. We talk about their steps. What are you willing to do to get your health back? Are you willing to do this? And the moment I heard, it's, I don't want to, I don't know when I'm going to find the time to work out. I want to do it. But the minute I heard, I was like, they're not ready. And I can't coach anybody into being ready.
Yeah.
Once you're ready, anything will work. Cabbage soup diet will work. Right. May not last forever, but I found I can't coach them until they become ready. So so I was like, I'm done. You know what? Come to me when you guys are ready and I can help you. I can give you tips and ideas for what to do. So I think that's part of my hang up on my labeling as a coach now. I find that I want to connect with people in a way that will inspire them to find within themselves whatever it is that they need to do that will inspire the change they're looking for in their life. And there's such power in the spoken word, and in the shared stories and the commonalities of vulnerability and fear. There's a lot of fear. And wonder if I start doing this and once again, it's another diet that doesn't work or that fails. Yeah. I am then a failure. So it's more in finding the way to connect with people through our stories, that it forces them to go inside and say, This has got to start with me. And I don't care. I'll say to people, it doesn't have to be intrinsic. There's people who'll say, well, I feel really selfish, Laura. I feel very narcissistic because I've got my 30-year class reunion and I just want to show that old boyfriend, or they're going on a vacation and they want to look good in a bikini. And sometimes it's like, I don't want to die at 45 due to obesity. Sure. And I say to them, don't judge whatever it is. There's no wrong or right, because eventually it's all going to come back, whether it's just because you want to look good. As you start to lose weight, you're going to start intrinsically feeling more successful or more powerful and more like, I can do this. And then those qualities will continue you on your path. They all are going to come in together. The extrinsic and intrinsic will come together at one point. So don't judge whatever it is that brings you there. Sure. So what, you want to look good in a bikini? Who doesn't want to look good in a rockin' a bathing suit, right? It does. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. And that's more of where I've come from now, is wanting to really help women. This is funny. I just had a total aha moment on this podcast.
Well, that's good, because I've had a few.
Is to say to women, okay, I feel good in my skin. Yeah. But as much as I work out, I still have cellulite. My body's changing at 56. Things are harder to stay in track. And I know I'm blessed that I love to work out. Yes, I do too. Okay. It's a good thing, because I see people who are like, they hate it. And I do believe exercise is a big part in the mind-body centers of feeling good.
I wonder if they really actually hate the working out, though, or I don't know.
I think
how could you hate it? I love it. I love how I feel after. I like the feeling of power, like you said, and feeling mentally and physically strong. And I do feel like working out, running, lifting weights makes me feel that way.
But I think too, Karen, there's what we consider working out has got to change. It doesn't have to be in a gym. And that's what I'm telling people. What do you love to do? You don't have to like lifting weights. What do you love to do? And it's changing this idea too.
I walk outside now for an hour, and that's my workout sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
This one woman said to me, God, I love to dance. I used to love to dance. I'm like, so dance. Why don't you just join a salsa or find
Zumba? Yeah.
Exactly. Zumba. And once they get this concept out of their head of the no pain, no gain. And
nobody wants to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is changing the mentality too, or the mindset of people, and having them think, we are getting more sedentary as the decades go by because of just the way it is, working remotely from home now. Amazon, we don't even have to leave our houses anymore to shop. So you have to move, but it doesn't have to be in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable.
Right. That's why I like yoga, because sometimes I don't want to go run. I want to just clear my mind, but it's still a really good workout.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything can turn into a workout if you love it and if you are enjoying it, because you're going to do it consistently enough. And this woman said, all of a sudden, I liked sweating. It was fun because of the way I was sweating was fun to me to do it. And then the weight started coming off. And then when her joints and her body started feeling better, then she was like, oh, I'm going to start walking now.
Then you can't not work out at that point. Yeah, when you get to that point. Yeah.
Exactly. So this coaching thing, this is just me in being, the John Maxwell thing was fascinating because I had read so many of his books on personal development.
Okay. I have not read any. So he's a prolific on, okay. Yeah. Because I've seen him come up for the John Maxwell speaking, I think is what I've seen.
Yes.
So I don't know much about it. So tell us about it.
He's huge into leadership.
Okay.
So, and books on 15 invaluable, now I'm going to be invaluable laws of leadership, and hundreds of books he's written. Sure. So I had like 5 of them that I've read time and time and time again. Yeah. So when this opportunity came up, it was more really just wanting to meet him and see, because leadership kept coming up to me. People kept saying, speak at leadership conferences. And I thought, really, what is leadership? What are we talking about here? Yeah. Because
it's thrown about a lot.
It's thrown about a lot. And so I took it. I haven't applied it into workshops or facilitating anything yet, because what I have this has all come full circle, is it comes back to, you can't lead others until you can lead in your own life. And to be able to lead in your own life, you have to know who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to be authentic, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable, and you have to be willing to go deep at all these things that No More Pockets has done. So I think leadership, how I am wanting to encourage people who are really into this leadership thing that's going on right now, which in corporate America, there's a lot of leadership. I don't think you can lead until you really know who you are. And
Totally agree.
Yeah. And until
have
you
to
are
know who
willing
you-
to
yeah.
take your hands out of
And
your
what
pocket.
you care about and what you're passionate about.
Exactly. And if you know that within yourself, you can lead others.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I love that message. So where can we find more information on what you're doing and where you're speaking?
I am just in the process of starting a YouTube channel. So we're here at CalVision Studio,
awesome.
Corey and Alan Lusk.
This is a nice setup. Good
Isn't
lighting.
it good? Yeah. So I met Corey through, I had gone to a community event on YouTube, learning how to manipulate YouTube, because I really struggle with social media. I feel so inept. And so, excuse me, I went to this. He was there. He was asking some really good questions that led me to turn around and say, what do you do? And so I'm building my YouTube channel with his help.
Awesome.
And so you can find me everything. It's on my website is lauralindwall.com.
Okay.
Otherwise, YouTube, Laura Lindwall. But I'm still growing it. It's just now starting. So I want to share.
People like the journey. That's okay.
Yeah. and I just posted a video where I'm still fumbling around with editing. And I said to Corey, when I'm back here in Illinois, because I'm in Tampa right now with my husband, he's working. So let me wrap this up a little bit. No More Pockets has really become an acronym for me about real life.
Yeah.
Reveal, embrace, and live your truth. And I'm always, our journey to be real and be seen is an expanded version of No More Pockets and where it has come. So on my YouTube channel, I'm saying to people, I will fumble around on this. I will get this, and I will be real in front of you.
That's
in front of you.
Yeah.
But it's kind of expanded now into real life stories where I'm going to be doing interviews for women who also have a story to tell that they feel is applicable now to where they are in their life with regards to their business. This has led me to want to share as a coach, as a podcaster, other people's stories, but also real fitness, because it is such a passion for me and personal growth. And I want people to see that real fitness can be so much easier than what we make it out to be.
Of the day.
Than the workout of the day. It's sometimes for most people, it's just getting up and knowing a 5-minute walk will make a difference.
Yeah.
It will. If we are sedentary and you're starting from scratch, it's okay to start with where you. Yeah. So right now, I'm going to really be developing my YouTube channel.
Awesome.
So I can be, when I'm not speaking, I can still expand my skills, right?
Sure.
And connecting and communicating with others, and still developing where is all this going for me? Because that's part of our
You're
growth.
following your passion.
Yeah, but where on this entrepreneurial path that I still feel like, well, do I still want to go after the so entrepreneurial path for a lot of people. I tell people, don't quit your job. Right. Money's not a bad thing. And people who are starting in entrepreneurial, they want to quit. They're like, I'm going to go for this full steam ahead. I'm like, yeah, like having money coming in is not a bad thing either. Yeah. Until that starts to build and grow. So, and this is coming up because I recently said to someone, other than doing part-time, I am starting to get paid for my speaking opportunities. But when you don't have them coming in, it's important for me, and this is a deeper part of my story we won't get into, is to be able to earn my own money.
Sure.
So I'm remarried. I was married for 24 years,
Oh,
went through a
wow.
divorce, and I'm remarried. And I'm able to travel with my husband, and he is supporting this every day. He's like, you do whatever you want to do. If anything's going to distract you from expanding on this, please don't do it. But if you need to do something
That's good.
to make you
To
feel
have a
good, do
partner
it.
like that. Yeah.
So I'm still struggling with all that too. And people have said, I don't share that though. That's going to make people who are trying to figure their life out too feel like you haven't got it figured out, and why will they follow you on
no,
YouTube?
I think people want to hear the journey. Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So that's where the YouTube channel, you can follow, my website is up, but it's all still kind of coming together for me also.
Well,
And
this is an exciting time. Yeah.
and you did the same thing when you told me you were starting in
Yeah,
podcasting
yeah.
for you too.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's awesome.
How long have you been doing this?
Since December. So I have about 15 recorded. And so we're launching this week. We're waiting on iTunes. So talk about the journey. We were supposed to launch on Tuesday, and Apple hasn't approved our iTunes yet. So once we get that, we're launching 3 episodes and then an episode a week after that.
An episode a week.
Yeah.
And is this where, can I just ask, is this going to be your primary focus, podcasting?
No, I have a full-time job in addition.
What do you do?
So I am the chief client officer at a startup called Sip Science.
Sip Science?
Yeah, Sip Science. So it's a consumer-facing app that brings discounts on alcoholic beverages. So the app launches in May. Yeah, it's awesome. It
That's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't even drink really. So it launches in May though, and so we're going to launch in New York and then Chicago. So it's a really exciting time. And I love startup. I've been at big Fortune 500 companies. I've been at Big Four Consulting, PricewaterhouseCoopers. I like startups because I like building things.
Really?
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to figure that out, but that's what I love, is building something. We've got like a scrappy team of really smart people building algorithms and things like that. It's awesome.
Oh, gosh. Well, you need to talk more about that. I'm fascinated with that because that's all you hear now is about startups.
Startups, yeah.
And what that entails and what that means. But okay, so this is going to be something just to build.
Well, so the whole goal of the podcast
Yeah.
is similar almost to your mission, where I've had to kind of scratch and claw my way to the top, to the C-suite in business, and I want to make it easier for women. And so I also am a professor at DePaul University and a researcher, and some of my research has shown that women do not see or feel that they're perceived as a leader. And so I want to have this podcast that highlights and shines a light on all these amazing female leaders that are doing big things in their business.
Why do women not feel they're seen as a leader? Is that just part of the
It's just, I did some
mindset?
research, probably about 150 sample of really high achieving women, and asked about their biggest challenges. One of them was work-life balance, which I have no answers for. And then the other one was not having my voice heard, not having a seat at the table, not feeling like they're seen or heard as a leader. So some iteration of that statement. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Fascinating. And these are corporate women. So, I mean, it makes sense given kind of the statistics and things like that in the industry. You know, there's only 4% of CEOs at large companies are women.
Women.
Yeah.
So funny. My son was just this last night. He was asking if I'd listen to this Jordan Peterson podcast.
Okay.
About, do you know Jordan Peterson?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, it was about this. It was about the female and male roles in corporate America and how they are perceived and how they fall into perceived stereotypes.
Oh, yeah.
Also.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually have a podcast that I recorded from a professor at Northwestern University. She's 81 years old. She's the foundational study of gender. So she coined like social role theory and role congruity theory that outlines how women are seen as more communal and kind and nurturing, and then men are seen as competitive, domineering, and those are more aligned to leadership traits than the kind and communal. Although I would argue that I think actually those skills make for better leaders, transformational leaders. But interesting podcast with her and her research. And she actually did this before the first women's movement in the 60s. This was awesome.
Really?
Yes. Fascinating podcast. So that's the goal of my podcast. So I love that our interests are aligned. I love your story of authenticity, and I will work on the vulnerability. I definitely am working on it. And so we appreciate all of your time and candor, and love your energy and spirit, and can't wait to see where you land and where you head. So we'll be following for sure.
Thank you so much.
So thank you.